Hello guys, welcome back to the kitchen. Today I'm going to be making a salted caramel bacon. Hi guys, welcome back to the kitchen today. I have got a fantastic project that I want to share with you. I'm going to be curing some bacon, and it's going to be a salted caramel bacon cure that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to make it from scratch, and I'll show you how to do that.
Now I'm going to be removing the rib bones using a flexible knife. This can be a little bit tricky if you're doing this for the first time, but you can ask your butcher to do this for you. These ribs on their own will make a lovely meal. Next, I'm going to be removing the skin, leaving as much fat on the belly as possible. Personally, I like the skin left on the bacon, but as I'm going to be using this bacon for making pigs in blankets, on this occasion it's got to go. It won't be wasted though, I'll be using it to make some pork scratchings. I'm using a 3 kilogram slab of belly pork. By the time I trim it, I'll be left with just under 2 kilograms for the bacon. The first thing I need to do is to make the caramel. First, place a pan on a medium heat and allow it to come up to temperature. Add 100 grams of granulated white sugar to the pan, covering the whole base in a thin layer. To this I'm adding a splash of water. The water stops the sugar from burning in the early stages before it's had a chance to melt. The water will eventually boil off, leaving just the sugar. As the sugar boils, it will begin to change colour, initially turning a lovely light straw colour and gradually turning to a rich golden colour. As the sugar continues to heat, it will become even darker. At this stage, I reduce the heat on the pan to the absolute minimum as the caramel continues to darken to a deep brown. Be careful, as this sugar will burn and become very bitter if you don't control the heat at this stage. With the caramel at the right colour, pour it onto the silicone mat, making sure not to touch it, as it's extremely hot and it can cause burns. With a metal spatula, spread the caramel into a thin layer and allow it to cool completely. While this is cooling, I can get on and measure out the curing ingredients.
So let's weigh our pork. We'll zero our scales. And that weighs 1.86 kilos. We're going to add our Prague powder at the rate of 2.5 grams per kilo. So I've worked that out at 4.65 grams of Prague powder. And I normally use 30 grams of salt per kilo, and that works out at 55 grams of salt for a piece of meat this size. But you've got to remember, Prague powder has already got some salt in it anyway, so what I can do is I can literally take one from the other, and I work it out roughly at about 51 grams of salt. So I'm going to weigh out 51 grams of salt, 4.65 grams of Prague powder. We'll add that to the meat once it's in the bag, and then we'll add the caramel, but I need to process that first, so that's the next step. Let's weigh this ingredient out. It's a big old piece of bacon, this, so there's our 51 grams. I like to be accurate, nothing wrong with a bit of accuracy. We're now going to weigh out our Prague powder, and I need to be careful with this. It's always worth taking your time. There we go.
Once the caramel has set hard, I break it into small pieces, ready for the pestle and mortar.
Oh, this is going to be amazing! Amazing! Now those of you know when I cure bacon, I always do it in a bag because I don't want to waste any of the ingredients by losing them either in the bottom of a bowl or whatever. I like them to be in really close contact with the meat. So I'm going to be popping this in a vacuum bag. I've got one here. So I've trimmed my meat to fit in my bag. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but that's okay. And we want to get this in the bag, like so. It will fit, trust me. The advantage of curing in a bag is, firstly, you've got the meat in very close contact with the cure at all times, and secondly, when it's in the fridge, you don't have any of those cross-contamination issues which you sometimes get if you cure in a brine, in a fridge, in a bowl. You know, things can fall in it, things can fall over and touch it. So in a fridge, in a bag like this, you're pretty good to go. Right, now, I need to get this cure on there. So we've got a nice mix of salt and Prague powder. So I'm going to put about 75% of this mixture on the meat face. Maybe a bit more. There we go, we've got about 25% there, which we can then turn over and put on the fat side. Obviously, there's going to be less cure penetration on the fat side because obviously you've got a layer of fat there, and all I'm doing now is I'm just moving that around so that we've got a reasonable coverage. Don't worry too much about it being all concentrated in one spot. Over the time of the cure, it will migrate to all corners. So, right, let's get our caramel in. So, this is a very exciting cure. I've never done a salted caramel bacon cure before. Look at the colour of that. That looks amazing, doesn't it? We'll put a little bit on the back as well. There we go. So that's in there. We'll get rid of our pestle and water. Okay, so we'll try and move that around a little bit. I've got a spoon here, so I'll just try just giving it a little bit of encouragement to get around the sides. But don't worry too much about this. If you can't do it, don't worry. It's not a problem. When all this does turn to liquid, it will migrate around the whole of the joint of meat, so it's not too much of an issue. So look at that, that's looking amazing. I was a bit concerned about putting sharp bits of caramel into a vacuum bag. I thought, you know, like sharp glass, it's going to cause it to pierce. So if it does pierce, I'll just put another bag over the top of this and away we go. So, alright, I want to get rid of all that caramel off the spoon, so I'm going to work through the back of this and see if I can get as much off there as possible. Okay, I think we've gone as far as we can with that. Right, we need to seal this up. So obviously it took a little bit out on the bag when we put it in here, so we've got a little bit of fat on the lip. So I'm just going to remove any obstructions or anything that's likely to cause the seal to fail. I don't obviously want that to be an issue. So we've cleaned that nicely. We now have our vacuum machine, and let's go for it. Wow, look at that. so you're beginning to see that colour coming through in that caramel now. We'll revisit this in a couple of hours and see what it's like. So, the curing for this. We are going to cure this for 1 day for every ½ inch of thickness, or every 12 centimetres, plus a couple of days. So I'm looking at that, that's about 1.5 inches thick there. Yeah, about 1.5 inches thick.
So as the meat is exactly 1.5 inches thick, that gives us 3 lots of ½ an inch, which equates to 3 days, plus 2 days equals 5 days. But this is an absolute minimum, and because this bacon has a lot of extra sweetness on it, I'm going to cure it for a few extra days, and that's going to be about 8 days in total. So that's how long this cure is going to run for. And as we're using a minimal amount of salt, this bacon won't end up being too salty.
Every day we'll take this out the fridge, we'll turn it over, we'll give it a very quick massage so that we're making sure that all that cure and all that lovely sweetness is going all over that bacon. And then we'll pop it back in the fridge, and we'll do that every day. And then at the end of that, we can take this out. So what I do now is I'll write on the bag today's date. So it's the 13th of the 12th. 13th of the 12th. And this is going to be cured in 8 days time. So that's going to be the 21st of the 12th. 1, 2 is 12. Okay, and I'm really looking forward to this. I've never done a salted caramel before, but I love salted caramel. I mean, who doesn't love salted caramel? And look at that. You can even see the colour coming out in that now. Look at that. Isn't that stunning? That's really, really good. And I'll tell you what, I think I could have gone even a little bit darker with that caramel. So if you're braver than me with making caramel and you want to take it just to that next stage where it gets even darker, but without obviously creating a problem and turning bitter, because you don't want that. You want to maintain that sweetness, but you want to develop that flavour and that colour. Then give it a go. See what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether you've given it a go yourself. And right, let's get this in the fridge on cure. Well, this has been in the fridge now for around about 6 hours, and just want to show you all that caramel juice that's coming off that. Have a look at that. Look at the colour and look at the fluid out the back. This is going to be absolutely stunning. Right, our salted caramel streaky bacon has been on cure for a good few days now, and it's done. And now we're going to give it a rinse, and before we do that, I want you to come in and have a look at this, because this has been curing, and the whole curing process has been about drawing moisture out from this particular piece of meat. And you can see here all that moisture that's come out, and this is absolutely perfect. It's also firmed up the texture of the meat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the sink, and we are going to rinse it in cold running water.
With all the excess salt rinsed off the bacon, we can now pat this dry using paper towel.
And once this is dried, we'll stick it on a rack for an hour in the fridge to let it just firm up a bit, and then we'll pop it into the cold smoker. We're going to dry it on here for about an hour, and then we will stick this into the cold smoker, and we'll cold smoke this with a bit of oak for around about 24 hours. But before we do that, this is going straight into the fridge.
Here I'm using the ProQ Artisan smoke generator. This generator burns for between 16 to 18 hours, and I'm using 100% oak wood dust in this example. If you want to know more about this smoke generator, there are a couple of videos on the channel which tell you all you need to know about how to use this and to get the most from it. I'll leave a link in the description.
Outside, it's cold. Come on, big boy pants on. Right, we're going to get this in the base. We're going to light it. Come in a bit closer, I'll show you this. Woohey, steady on, Jock.
I use a brûlée torch to light the smoke generator, and I apply the flame underneath for a short period of time until I can see some smoke. Then I play the flame on top to get it going and make sure it's lit well before I leave it.
Right, let's go and get the bacon. Bacon. Put it on a bit of parchment sheet here so we can stick that straight in, and we'll come back to this when it's smoked. I'm going to smoke it for about 24 hours. That's just getting going. That will start kicking out a lot more smoke once that burn front crosses the whole of the width of that channel there. Let me shut this door and we'll come back to this later. Bye. Happy smoking. Oh, it's very rainy today. Oh. And let's go and see what the smoker's been up to. Right, we put the bacon in here last night. Oh, look at the rain. Yeah, it's not been particularly good today. Very damp. Let's have a look how we're doing. Okay, that has smoked. Oh, more importantly, look at that. Got rain on the lens. Let me just give it a wipe. There we go. Look at that. That's properly well burnt. Right, I need to get this, recharge it. I've got a little bit more salmon to do. I'll do that off camera. But in the meantime, let's get this bacon, this lovely smoked bacon inside. Right. Oh, I've got to get my hand on it. See now, look, this is what I want to show you. Watch this. It's very tarry. So it just shows you there is a smoke residue there. Right, come on, in you come. Shut the door. That's it. We'll get this in the fridge, let it firm up, and before I slice this, I'm going to freeze it.
Just before I place the bacon in the freezer, I like to wrap it in cling film and place it on a cutting board. This ensures that it stays nice and flat when it freezes, so when we come to cut this on the slicer, everything's nice and square and straight and flat.
Right, bacon's ready for slicing. As I always do, I freeze it beforehand. It makes the slices incredibly accurate and you don't get any fat drag. So, before this thaws, let's get it sliced. Slicer's all set up. Just going to wrap this. I should say unwrap it. It smells amazing.
If you're interested in learning more about slicing bacon, I have a couple of videos on the channel. I'll leave a link in the description.
Okay, here goes nothing. It's all lovely frozen. It's just beginning to thaw at the base. I'll get this all packed onto gold silver boards.
Now, this is where all your hard work comes to fruition. The slicing is really important. As you can see, all my slices are stacked in piles as they come off the slicer. This ensures that as I lay them onto the boards, all the rashers are the same size and, more importantly, look alike. Packaging your bacon onto gold silver boards adds a touch of professionalism to all your hard work. I like to lay the bacon onto the boards so that I have the edge with the strip of fat furthest away from me, and then progressively add slices to the board, covering up the previous strip of fat. This method ensures you present the cut edge of the meat, which is the best looking part of the bacon. Once the gold board is filled with rashers, I slip it into a vac bag and seal it. When they're all done, I'll pop them into the freezer, ready for when I fancy a bit of home cured bacon.
Bacon is cooked and that looks absolutely delicious. I'm going to try a little piece now. The first thing that gets you after the smoky flavour is the sweetness. That is delightful. These are little snippets and I've cooked them up really quickly, but they are absolutely delicious. What a triumph. Well look, I'm going to carry on eating that off camera, a bit rude, but you can see it's all now on gold silver boards. Let me show you how many I've got down here. You can see I have got a raft of them. These are all going to go back in the freezer. And we'll have these over the next few weeks and months, if I'm being absolutely honest. Well, there we go. Better get these in the freezer before they defrost. If you like the video, give us a like, subscribe, big thumbs up. And in the meantime, I shall see you on the next one. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.